Welcome back. You're listening to Boomer Life here on AM 650. I'm Sterling Fox. Boomer Life is a celebration of the baby boomer lifestyle. And today we're speaking about retirement living with the experts from Revera Retirement, Lydia Miller and Christopher Miss. And for more information, by the way, about Revera, simply go to the website. It's reveraliving.com, and you can get all the information there about Revera, a leading provider of seniors accommodation and care. And Lydia, you've talked a little bit about your background, and Chris as well, in the hospitality industry, which lends itself greatly to retirement living. You both feel, I gather, I'm putting words in your mouths, but you've kind of graduated from hotels to retirement living, which is, I would think, a more fulfilling aspect of that same industry.
And a lot more challenging. It's a lot more challenging to go from, the one night a week guy that comes in to the senior that comes in for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. They come, they're an extension of our family. It's home. They become comfortable and they come up to us.
Well,
right?
Challenging but very rewarding. I mean, it's rewarding in a way that one night a week or that 1 week guest never is. I'm frequently there on a weekend, trying to get caught up and all that sort of good stuff.
Sure.
I have a steady stream of residents. I know probably about 90% of my residents by name.
And they just pop into the office. How's it going? And
oh yeah, I get recipes. I just got 2 movie clippings for something, and resident referral saying, no, you don't want to go see this. It's terrible. But they know me. I know them, mm-hmm. right? And that's what's really so rewarding. And as you get to know them more, you can really, see to their needs in a way that you never really could in hospitality. So what you said, Sterling, about graduating, I would say that's very accurate. It's a great way to go. Yeah.
All right. Now, we talked also earlier about the ways that people approach Revera and any one of its facilities around British Columbia, including yours at Whitecliff, Chris. And you were saying, Lydia, for example, that a lot of times it's seniors themselves who come forward and say, I'm going to take a look at this. Maybe time for a change. Many other times, however, it's their caregiver children who approach, sometimes with the knowledge of their parents and sometimes without the knowledge of their parents, making inquiries about retirement living. So talk to us. This is Boomer Life, after all. So talk to us, Lydia, about the benefits to boomers in choosing Revera for their parents or other family members that they're doing the investigating for.
Sure. Actually, when you talk about there being some caregiving adult children involved, mm-hmm. they're the ones who will come to us and have guilt feelings. Mom looked after me all my life.
Right.
It's my turn to look after Mom.
Sure.
So putting her in a retirement home.
You're letting her down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And at the same time, I don't know whether it was you, Chris, or Lydia that talked about caregiver burnout, which is also a reality. If you're one of the 7 million boomers turning 60 this year, a 60-year-old person looking after probably maybe an adult child going to university on one side, and on the other side, an adult parent, perhaps in their 80s or 90s, the sandwich generation we get called. And so you talk about caregiver burnout, which I'm sure just comes with a host of awful, guilty stuff. Because as you say, it's my mom. She cared for me from infancy to adulthood. The very least I should be able to do is look after her for as long as she needs me. Mm-hmm. And yet I just can't quite cope with it all anymore.
No, and absolutely, Sterling. It's you can see the resident or the prospective resident, the person who they're coming to speak to, mom or dad, going, well, I'm just managing just fine. And you can see, the son and daughter in behind, and they're just at their wits' end because they do have that guilt. They do feel bad. But what they need to understand is that when you get to a point that you're burnt out yourself and that you can't give that care, really looking after mom and dad and really entrusting to somewhere where there is, trained professionals. In the case of Whitecliff, we have, 70 professionally trained caring long-term staff to look after mom and dad properly.
Okay.
Med assistants, meal assistants, AM, PM, whatever it may be. There's no need to feel that guilt because really at that point you really need to entrust mom and dad to that care where they can be properly looked after.
Right.
And we go through that to the whole needs assessment and address that as we go.
All right. What any other benefits to talk to us about? I think peace of mind, as Chris has sort of alluded to
I was
already.
just going to say that.
This is where we're going here with this, aren't we, Lydia?
Right. they achieve a sense of safety and security and peace of mind, knowing that they've chosen a residence where mom is secure because we're 24/7 monitored, right? If they're not feeling comfortable and they're lonely, then we provide socialization and lots of activities for them to participate in should they wish. And a lot of times when seniors come to us on their own, it's because they've lost a spouse and they are lonely and they're not eating well. They're, the nutrition isn't there anymore. And when they come to us, they have great food. They're fed regularly. They don't have to cook. They don't have to shop for the groceries. They don't have to clean the dishes. They don't have to change the bed linen. We do that.
And we often see, I'm thinking of one gentleman who's been with us for just about as long as I've been with Revera now, about 4 months. And he came to us from the hospital, and he wasn't doing so well. But as he started getting integrated in the activities and having the nutritionally balanced, very delicious meals, the activities to choose from, and getting back into the rhythms of life, he's bounced back phenomenally. And I'm told from our longer term care staff that this is a regular occurrence. People come in, they don't seem to be doing so well, matter of weeks, sometimes days, right back.
They gain a little bit of weight. They become more engaged. They're more sociable.
I had one resident tell me that she was getting too fat because the food was too good. And I said, well, good for you. Keep eating.
Right. That's a nice problem to have at this point in your life, isn't it? So we're talking, though, about individuals, Lydia, and I think it's important to stop, because, we, the boomers, are responsible for our parents. They were responsible for us. Now it's our turn. And it's all fair. I mean, it's just the cycle of life. No problem. But by assuming that or by addressing that responsibility, we don't all do it equally, and we don't all do it well. And what drives us is the desire to care for our parents or our relatives, our family members. It's not just our job. We want to do right by them.
Absolutely.
So when you talk to people, let's use the example, Chris, that you've identified. A couple, boomers, caregiving children in their 50s or 40s or whatever. They come to Whitecliff, Chris, and they want the tour because, since Dad died, Mom's all by herself in that big old house that's too much work for her now anyway. It was too much work when Dad was still around, but he helped. And now he's not here anymore, so Mom's got this big old house she rattles around in. She doesn't get out much. Nobody comes by to visit her except us. So, why not put Mom in a circumstance where she can interact with people again? Because she's kind of losing it a little bit because she's isolated and she's really lonely.
Yeah, and you see that a lot, and everybody sees it except the person themselves who's come to you. In their mind, I'm doing just fine.
Right.
But again, when somebody comes in through our door, first thing we do is they come in and can we have a brochure? And we like to sit down with them first, and what brings you here today? And as you identified, many times it's spelled out. More often, it's not spelled out. We're just looking.
Right, sure.
Okay, great.
Yep. Just poking around, having a look.
Yeah,
Yep. Got any brochures? Yeah. So these people who come to you, Chris, and they're poking around, looking for brochures, discreetly asking questions, but if they show up at Whitecliff and White Rock or Lydia, any of the other Revera properties around British Columbia, they're not going to a retirement living complex for no reason. Chris, they're interested and they want information. What sort of information do people come to you looking for the most? They want to know how much it costs. They want to know what kind of care you give. All of the above. What are they looking for?
I think, Stirling, that's a very good question, and I think that it is all of the above. But it's interesting how it comes out, because, again, it always comes out, we're just looking, we just want a brochure. And cost is typically one of the first things that comes up, but that's not really what it's about. And it's like an onion. You have to peel away the layers to find out. And when somebody comes in, what we do is we don't just give them a brochure. We sit down with them for a few minutes, and we ask them, so what's different about today? What brings you through our doors today? And we go through and, what do you like to do? How is your health? A series of questions to find out really what they are looking for, and can we meet that need? Right? Are they right for us? Are we right for them? And then we go through from there. But I think the real question on people's minds, and Lydia, if you feel differently, is this the right place for mom and dad?
Yeah.
Are they going to look after mom and dad who have looked after us all our lives?
Right.
And will we have that peace of mind after?
And it's that sense, and we talked about it from through the prism of guilt earlier, Lydia, but it's the sense really of wanting to do the best possible thing you can, to do right by that relative, that your parent or your aunt or whoever it might be. So when they talk to us a little bit about breaking the ice, a couple comes to you, they're looking for Dad. He's not there. He probably doesn't even want to know this conversation is taking place. Dad likes the house. He likes the old place. He's not interested in moving into some retirement place. He's not that old. So they have the conversation. They give the information about the Revera property in question.
I have two sisters,
Okay.
right now in that very similar situation, only there's actually two sets of sisters. One is working with the dad, another one's working with mom. Neither parent knows that the kids are looking.
Okay.
But I did just find out last week from one of them that she just approached dad with this idea of retirement living because, Dad, your health, you're slowing down, you're not as active, you don't go visit your friends, you're not eating properly. I think you should consider this.
Okay.
And
how did Dad react?
Oh, dug in his heels.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not surprised by that, not at all. And I don't know whether it's a guy thing, Chris, or not, but you tell a guy that he can't take care of biz by himself, you're pressing a raw nerve, right? So
but it's like think of yourself as having kids, right? Chris has a wife, no kids. I have kids. I got parents. But do we really want our children telling us that we got to do something? No,
yes.
Not at all.
Yeah, I have 3, and I'm not keen to hear that myself.
Yeah, no. You don't want to hear you can't take care of yourself anymore.
Right. So nonetheless, and this is the feelings part, Lydia, that you addressed earlier, and this is critical in this whole retirement living scenario. And this is boomer life here on the radio, folks, and this is a boomer radio station. We are encountering this in our lives frequently. And if it's not happening in your life, then it's happening in the life of someone you know as you listen to this program, talking about how to best appreciate our parents and take care of their needs as they get older. So how do you break then? And you talked about one sister who broached the subject with Dad, who did not appreciate the idea. And so how does that go? You've been through this dozens of times. Is it just a process of acclimatizing, of conditioning Dad to the fact that, I'm just because we've raised this once and you said no, it doesn't mean I'm not going to raise it again, because I think it's of merit and you really do need to consider that. Is that how you just keep coming back at it without making him feel like you're trying to kick him out?
No, actually, we work with the adult children, the boomers, and they don't want to annoy Dad, right? They don't want to get him all upset.
Of course.
And it's like, don't even come visit me anymore. Don't even want to look at the brochure. But it's backing off, giving them some space, and then helping the adult child with their verbiage, how to approach the topic.
Absolutely.
Like using the right words that still help them maintain control of their lives.
So when you sit down, if a couple interested in a retirement living situation for a parent, Chris, comes to Whitecliff, you'll sit down with this and you'll give them the information they want about the facility. Right. And then you'll also help them, frankly, Mr. Miss, I haven't spoken to my father about this yet, and he's not going to take this well. Have you any suggestions that we might use by way of approaching our dad with this whole idea? And by gosh, you do.
Absolutely, Stirling. As Lydia just mentioned, it really is at this stage in a senior's life about remaining in control. And we do have a book we give out, a tool that helps the adult children speak to their parents while allowing them to remain in control of the decision. A decision that the children know is right, but a decision that ultimately mom and dad have to make.
Right.
It just helps guide them.
It helps guide them, because really this is probably the most major decision of their life at that point. It's not buying a car, it's a retirement lifestyle and a whole change.
Okay. Let me interrupt with one, I think, significant element here. And we're talking, for the purposes of the conversation so far, in terms of us boomers dealing with our parents and the whole retirement living scenario, I've been assuming that we're talking about a mom or a dad who may be reluctantly considering the idea, but nonetheless is a person able to consider the program and able to participate vigorously in the discussion. This is not always the case, Lydia.
No.
We're talking about individuals, parents, who may have dementia issues and other things like that. How does that color or the whole approach that the boomer sandwich kids who are trying to do right by mom who's not at all well and not the mom we used to know and love, and yet we need to know that she's well cared for, but she can't make these decisions for herself anymore. So talk to us about that scenario, because it's different.
Yeah, and a lot of times we'll counsel them to get their family physician involved. You know, we do have directors of health and wellness who are primarily registered nurses who come on the scene, who can do a verbal assessment just to get a sense of, you know, the level of dementia perhaps. But we are not lockdown facilities. So one of the misnomers out there about retirement living is that we are clinical and that we are a facility. We are a community.
Yep,
you know, we're a home, and so a lot of times when they hear this, they immediately shut down. So we try and help them in getting other professionals involved, you know, and not only from the medical standpoint, but the legal standpoint. Because when they get to the point where they can't write their legal documents, they can't sign their name.
They have to do power of attorney.
Exactly.
And all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we also help boomer children in going through all those different stages, you know, of what type of power of attorney is it? And do you know that upon death, that stops?
Lots of information required here, Chris.
Yeah, when you get into a situation that you're talking long-term care, or mom and dad not able to make the decisions on their own, you really do need, like at Whitecliff, we have a registered geriatric nurse specialist. Karen's fantastic. Sits with the family, speaks with the family physician. Again, that whole process, can we meet your needs? You know.
You're listening to Boomer Life here on AM 650. We're dealing with the whole business of retirement living with a couple of experts from Revera Retirement Living, Lydia Miller and Christopher Miss in studio. I'm Stirling Fox. More to come after this.